Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to the 12th episode of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. In episode 12, we'll be interviewing Tova Leigh, video creator and best-selling author of Fucked at 40 and You Did What? A book with lots of hot and revealing confessions. Then, I'll be discussing the book I'm reading now, which is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And finally, we'll be experiencing a guided meditation with affirmations for body positivity. But first, let's talk about my own journey with body positivity. Although I've done many erotic photo shoots and artistic nude shoots in the past, I wouldn't describe myself as very, maybe, body confident or bikini confident. When I was a teenager, I used to feel awful about myself. I used to get bullied at school for having very white skin. Everyone used to call me a ghost. And also, everyone fancied Pamela Anderson and they were crazy about Baywatch. And I thought, wow, I look nothing like her, so I must be undesirable. But then when I was 16, 17, I started studying history of art, and that's when I had a little bit of a wake-up call. I discovered Venus and all the Renaissance nudes. Many of them had pale skin, red hair and curves, and I thought, wow, that's like me and it looks beautiful. And I thought maybe I was born a few centuries too late. So I started to draw nudes and I was obsessed with Venus. And that's how I was obsessed with this beauty and I wanted to kind of be Venus. Then I had a boyfriend who unfortunately wasn't a big fan, unfortunately. And I had to deal with body shaming, which was very difficult because with the first person you are naked in front of, it's quite scary you feel very vulnerable about your body. And if that person is actually body shaming you, it can be incredibly traumatic. I remember once I was in the bath and he said to me, wow, you are a beautiful specimen. However, you could do with some breast implants and some liposuction on your belly. I remember just freezing with shock. I felt so sad and so disappointed and I just wanted to cry. And I was so in love with this guy, which is crazy. And the next time we had sex, I was wearing a t-shirt because I just was too ashamed to go naked. I didn't want him thinking that I was fat and flat-chested. Yeah, terrible, I know. I've made better choices since then, but it did take me a while. The next boyfriend I had, who I thought was very different, was not much better in that respect. I was with him when I was in, let's say, second year, third year at university, and I went to live in Paris, and oh my God, I was crazy for the pain au chocolat, the baguettes, the croissant au beurre, and buttering my baguettes with Président. I wasn't vegan back then, but oh my God, these things were just incredible. And even though I had good intentions to go jogging in the morning, that all went down. It all went pear-shaped when I walked past the patisserie and I smelt those pain au chocolat just warm out of the oven. And I loved how it felt, that warm chocolate in my mouth. Yes, but anyway, I remember I was buttering my baguette once and my boyfriend at the time said to me, maybe you should go easy on that butter. I was so insulted because I would never, ever body shame one of my partners because, I mean, even though I've not been with, let's say, most of the guys I've been with, I wouldn't say they were models, but they were beautiful to me and I wanted to be beautiful for them as well. And I think that your partner really should be your number one fan. Later, when I was in my late 20s, I started to experiment with erotic modeling. It all started because I had another boyfriend who didn't body shame me at all. And he had a digital camera on his phone. And that was just so liberating for anyone who wanted to create their own erotic art. This was just absolutely incredible. And we just spent a few afternoons just taking pictures, and I just loved the experience. And even though I didn't feel completely body confident, I did know how to strike a pose and make my body look photogenic. I guess that comes from my experience as a history of art student, and I used to always also paint and draw nudes, but I never imagined myself being the muse. I was always the spectator, so it was quite a revolutionary sensation for me to actually be the muse and be in front of the spectator for a while. And I absolutely loved the experience so much that I started to actually do many erotic photography collaborations with photographers here in Barcelona, and even some in London as well. And that's exactly why I started my sex blog in 2009, because I had this massive collection of photos that I wanted to showcase. And it wasn't just about photos, it's also about a message of body positivity, because all of my photos are no edit and no filter, which is very, very, very rare. And also, I didn't see, my philosophy being reflected anywhere, because I do think there's just an obsession with over, filtering, editing, face tuning, and then also plastic surgery. And I'm completely natural. So I'm natural, and so are the photos. So I was very, for me, it was about empowerment. And it was about a message, an artistic expression as well. My last boyfriend was amazing about my body. He just made me feel desirable, whether I'd put on weight, whether I was hairy, because I haven't been very familiar with with my razor during the lockdown, etc. And I got to a point where my legs were just like, a big ball of fluff, 7 months without shaving them. And even when I was unshowered, he made me feel desirable all the time. And I really believe that that's how it should be. But this year I've been going through a kind of disconnection and strange times with my own body. Earlier in the year, in February, I was in hospital for the first time in my life, and I had COVID, pneumonia, and anemia. So I was so weak. And I wasn't concentrating on feeling sexy or being smooth or whatever. I was just trying to get my strength back. And that took me a long time. It took me maybe over a month, actually, to feel strong again. And, just strong enough to go to the supermarket. I mean, I was just so weak. And then a few months later, I went back to the gym, but I could only do things like yoga, Pilates, and I hadn't been to the gym for maybe almost 2 years at that point. And now gradually over time, I've been regaining my strength to a point where now I'm very, very, very strong in all the classes that I go to. And also I've been eating very well to kind of get over the anemia, first of all, and just gain strength and health in general. But I have actually gained maybe 8 kilos, and I'm working hard on trying to kind of get rid of the extra pandemic layer that I have accumulated. And I'm kind of almost getting to the place I want to be. Well, I don't think I've lost too much volume, but I'm feeling very strong, at least, and accepting my new curves. I'm loving my new tits and my new ass, but it is difficult to, let's say you're thinking about a certain shirt in your wardrobe and you go to grab it, and then it won't shut on you because of your boobs are bigger. And that's something I've never ever experienced before, but it's something I'm trying to kind of embrace at the moment. And so I'm almost at a point where I'm reconnecting with my body, almost at my objective, and it's very arousing just to kind of feel and experience this reconnection. And I'm so looking forward to getting rid of all of the cobwebs that I have accumulated. Now it's time for this episode's interview. I'm going to be speaking to Tova Leigh, video creator and best-selling author of Fucked at 40 and You Did What? Tova Leigh, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for taking part in this orgasmic, what am I saying, Freudian slip, in this interview today. I'm very happy to have you here. So let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to create content about motherhood, sexuality, body image with humor, with comedy?
One word, desperation.
Oh, wow.
No, because the first part of your question was what inspired you to create content about motherhood. So yeah, it was definitely
But using humor as a medium, how did you decide to make it into something about like with using comedy?
I mean, to be honest, I wish I could say that this was a really smart master plan that I had really thought about, sort of knew exactly what I was doing, but it really wasn't. I think probably my way of coping with how I was feeling was through comedy. So in the time, I didn't feel like things were funny at all. But yeah, not even one bit. The kids were really young. I have three daughters, and I think I started the blog when my twins were two, and my eldest was four. So still very much in the, surrounded by nappies and just in that real fog of the early years of motherhood, and things didn't feel funny at all. But then I started ranting, and I don't know, the rants were funny. I suppose like when you hear it out loud, there's something funny about it, and people used to say to me, "Oh, how can you laugh? How do you manage to laugh?" And I thought, listen, I don't laugh in the moment. Trust me. Like in the moment, I'm crying. I'm screaming. I'm not laughing at all. But later on, when I reflect, I see the comedy in it, and that was, I think, a way for me to cope. And then I just carried on doing that, with everything else that I do. So it kind of led into talking more about women and body image. And I really do believe that comedy helps. Like you can get the information in so many ways. And I also do serious stuff as well. But when you see someone prancing around in a swimming suit with a massive wig tucked in to represent their enormous bush, and they're, singing, Bush of Glory, you can't help but laugh and then kind of just maybe feel a little bit better about your own body. and that was my goal, really. That was my goal, and it really does help me as well. Every time I do something ridiculous like that, it just makes everything else feel very easy. Not a challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So how is your creative process with your videos? Do you record them yourself? Do you get an idea and just do it, or do they take time? How does it vary?
Really depends. I create a lot of content, like a lot. So it's so different. There are things that I think about in advance, and I'd say probably most of my serious videos, I think about them a lot before, and there's a whole process in them. I do a lot of videos about women's rights, and I've made videos about rape, and I've made videos about sexism, and I've made videos about abortions, and lots of very heavy, big topics. So those are topics that I really do like to take my time to make. I will research them. I'll really do my homework. I'll find a lot of references, and before I even write the script, and then I write the script, and then I shoot the video, and then we look for a whole bunch of stuff that goes into B-roll, whether it's articles or, a lot of data to back up what I'm saying. Because for me, it's really important that if I'm going to put that type of piece of content out there, I really wanted to I know people are going to come at me. I know people are going to question what I'm saying. This is not comedy. This is not like do you know what I mean? Like I want to be backed up with a lot of facts. So those take a long time. Like that could take me a whole month just for one video. But a lot of the comedy videos, and especially the short format, the reels, the TikToks, they're very throwaway. They could just be something that I saw in the morning, or, some silly thing. And I so wish I was organized enough to sort of be that creator that has days of shooting content and then days of doing this or that, but it just never works that way for me.
Maybe it's better that it's more spontaneous, and also you get your family involved as well. How does that work? Do they enjoy it?
My family are involved to an extent. Like my kids have been in some of my videos. To be honest, they don't do a lot. Sometimes they do stuff that's more like branded things that we do because it's maybe children's products, or maybe it made sense for them to be in there. But they're literally in there as actors, roles that they play. They know what they're supposed to do. It would literally be like me hiring other, child actors to play my children. And I pay them, it's very,
oh, wow, great.
It's a work, it's a job thing, and that's it. And, I'm not a big fan of the sort of shooting them in real life, like just doing their, do you know what I mean? Like, just playing in the playground or doing, it's not my cup of tea to do that. My husband Mike is more involved in what I do, obviously, because he's a grown up and he can make those decisions for himself, and he's happy to, he does a lot of the videos with me. And of course we do a podcast together. We do Till Death Do Us Pod, which is our weekly podcast. And that's fun. It's fun that we are able to do those things together. My community love Mike. A lot of them are American, and they are with his accent.
Oh, wow. I do love that video of yours that when you're singing with the microphone and you see him from the side, like holding up the hairdryer.
That is literally our life.
It must be really funny just to have that art going on as part of family time as well.
Yeah, although I feel like for people from the outside, it probably seems more fun than what it actually is in real life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's fun. And we do make ourselves laugh probably more than what we're not that funny, you know, like we hysterical, you know, but you know, sometimes it doesn't feel, it's not like that. Sometimes it just feels like work, you know. I think
I guess the laughs come in the editing after, when you see it all edited.
I think the Nailed It videos, those type of small videos, we laugh in the moment a lot, especially the Nailed It ones where we're trying to mimic some athlete or some great dancers who are doing something. And, you know, we never rehearse those. It's very off the cuff, like just do it. And usually we do it a couple of times, but the first take is 9 times out of 10 the take that I actually use, because it's just... Wow. Yes, we didn't think about it. We just really tried. And usually we just laugh our way through it because we can't do anything. It's just so bad. And those are fun, you know. But a lot of the other things we do, it feels like work because it is work, you know. And I don't lie about it either, because I think there's a lot of that kind of false thing on social media. It's like, this is just a fly off the wall looking at my life. And it's like, no, it's not, you know, it's not, never like that. So, you know.
So you're going on tour soon, I believe. And what are you doing, a monologue, or is it going to be some sketches? What's it going to be like?
I'm going on tour to promote my new book, You Did What, which is a collection of secrets and confessions and basically stories, really, from women from all over the world. And the idea behind the book was that I've been sharing people's confessions for years. I started on Facebook a few years ago, just as let's do something on a Friday night. Let's just have a drink, you know, hang out and just read confessions. And it soon became like this thing that everybody was really looking forward to every Friday. And what I discovered through Pajama Party was that people hide the same secrets. So no matter where you are from the world, people experience shame and embarrassment over the same things. People do the same things and hide them. And secondly, what we discovered was that when they do share them and they get that feedback, they get the feedback of, wow, really? I thought I was the only one who did that, who said that, who had that experience, who felt that way. It really made them feel better, because they went, I'm not weird. Like, I always thought this was so weird, but actually I'm normal. Look, we just don't speak about it. And I just thought, we need to put this in a book, you know? So I'm really hopeful that that's what people take away from the book. And then the tour is to promote the book. So in the tour, in the show, I basically share a lot of my own confessions and secrets about the different themes that are in the book. So motherhood and sex, relationships, body image, all kinds of things. And I share some of other people's confessions in there as well. And there are some surprises. So I usually say that my shows are storytelling, because I'm not a stand-up comedian, but I tell stories, and some of them are funny. But there is something that I've never done that I'm doing in this show. Which I'm not gonna
very intriguing.
Surprise. And I am shitting myself. Like, I am.
So how does it compare being on stage to actually making videos? There's a massive difference in that. Are you more nervous about going on stage?
So different. I hate it. Like, the process before the going on stage, I'm like nearly physically ill, you know? I'm like, I feel sick. I want to vomit. I feel like, what have I done? Why am I here? Why did I put myself through this? This is awful. But then once I'm on stage, it's so much fun. And to get the sort of that connection with the audience is something you just don't have, obviously, when you make a video. And even when you're doing a live video and people are like, talking in the comments, it's still just so, do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that is amazing to have that connection. And I went on tour last year when my first book came out, which we talked about last time. And that was the absolute best thing about the tour, was meeting people in person and being able to then chat to them after the shows. And I'm really excited about that aspect. I'm petrified about the performance, but really excited to meet people in person.
That's when you realize that what you're doing in your own home is actually reaching people. You don't really realize it when you see numbers on the screen. Because I've had the same experience of doing tours in sex shops here in Spain. People say, I bought this because of you and it's changed my life. And I'm like, whoa. Every you just realize that every one comment is a person, it's incredible.
That is so true. Because sometimes you get even like really lovely messages, and of course they mean so much, people saying, I read your book, or I saw this video and it made a difference, and this is how it impacted me. And that's always amazing. But sometimes it doesn't have to happen often, obviously, but sometimes someone will say that to me on the street. Mm-hmm. And that always blows me away. Because like you said, it's like, oh my God, it's a real person. Like it's not just like a DM,
Absolutely. And also I've been reading your book this week, and I'm really happy to see that you included body fluids and more specifically bowel movements. I think it's such an important part of life that we don't really discuss. And especially, I remember years ago when I had, going away on holiday with some boyfriends in a hotel, and I felt like I couldn't go to the loo because they would hear in the bathroom of the hotel. Then I ended up being like constipated and bloated, and then just feeling really uncomfortable, being naked with this like huge belly going on, and it's really crazy how. And then when you get to a stage where there are farts and you can talk about these things, that you reach a whole new level of intimacy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's funny because people. I don't know if it's like an automated reaction that we have adopted just because that's what we feel how we feel we need to react to it. The sort of like, ooh, like something, but you're right. It's like, it's so normal and it's so human. And why is it like that? I honestly, before doing confessions, did not realize how many people had funny oops poop related stories out there, like did not realize. And that was probably the most confessions actually ever sent in were probably about poop. So to anybody listening out there, if you've got a sort of weird poop story, please know that you are not alone because it's very common.
I've just come to mind now something that happened to me when I was a student living in Paris. I was with this nice French guy. We went out one night to the theatre and had dinner. And then the next morning, we woke up in my tiny single bed, and he got out of bed and said, don't look at my underwear. There was no toilet paper in the toilet yesterday or something. And I was like, I just saw this like huge epic skid marks on this white underwear. I was like, I could never be with the guy again. It was just like,
wow.
It was just like awful. And if he'd gone through that, you'd surely try and hide it, The fact there was no shame, it was really weird.
No, why would he highlight it? That's just so funny. Oh,
he said, don't look at it. But I was like, once you say don't look, you look, don't you?
Yeah.
But also with some boyfriends, it's been really funny that the farting is another funny thing. I used to have an online kind of slave for a few years, and he had this like kind of symphony fart, like a really long one that would change in. It was just incredible. And every time he did it, he would like dance. It was one of our kind of funny jokes. But I think when you reach that level of intimacy, when it's just funny for you too, it's just really beautiful, isn't it, as well?
Wow. That is, to be honest, I don't really know what to say to that. That is great. I feel like I should have talked to you before the book came out. You would have had great stories to add to this book. you know. Fart symphony, never heard that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's I wouldn't dare to do that in front of someone else, really. But it's nice when someone else takes the lead, so to speak.
I feel so comfortable that they can, play music with their bottom.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of body image and body shame, you share a lot of content about this topic, and it's such an important topic, especially on social media where we see so much fakery. I mean, first of all, people are kind of operated at very young ages now, and then we've got all the filters in place. It's just a really crazy world of perfection and pressure. So
Yeah.
tell us about your content on body and body image.
I mean, to be honest, like I feel now, it's gone through so many different stages. And I think that is also a reflection of probably my age and age in general, because how we see the world, it changes throughout your life. So I would say a few years ago, if you asked me that question just after I had written Fucked at 40 and I had my midlife crisis, I would have talked to you loads about, the stuff that I did, the reconnecting to the body, to the dancing, the moving, the finding my sexuality again, all of those things. But now, if I'm being honest, I come to it from a completely different point of view now. I just really don't have time to waste anymore on on thinking, on kind of thinking, on that thinking about my body in those type of terms. I'm so grateful that I have a body. I'm so grateful that my body works, honestly, that I get up every morning and I can walk and I'm breathing and I can do the things that I need to do and want to do. I'm just so grateful. And I don't know if it was coming out of a pandemic, where a lot very ill, and I'm so grateful, my body got me through it. And whether it's, turning 46 next month and going, you know what, it's going to be very soon where when I can officially say I've had more past than future. Do I really want to spend the rest of the time that I have here thinking about my weight and and what size I am? I'm just not interested anymore, and I'm very sympathetic, obviously, to anybody who's still in that place, who still, really feels, maybe feels uncomfortable, wants to change something, or not happy. I get it. I was there for many, many years, but I do still share a lot of content about body image, but I'm coming at it, I think, now from a completely different place. And I think for me, just exposure is probably has more of an impact, one of the things that I'm talking about at the moment, and I was going to share something probably in the next few days in that line as well, is just, it really made a massive difference to me when I changed. I think what you see around you impacts what you think about yourself. And if you surround yourself only by, like you said, a lot of accounts on social media that are very one type of accounts. And so, like you said, the filter, the very pretty, the very beautiful, glossy, all that, then it impacts you. It impacts how you see the world and what you think about yourself. And I just did a cleanup. I was like, this doesn't make me feel great. So why am I following this person? Like, good for them, but it's not for me. And I just completely changed the people I was following. And when I go on Instagram now, I really see a very diverse kind of, bunch of people who are doing a bunch of different things and great things. And, and they have different body types and shapes and sizes. And I feel very normal, amongst them. And I just think that's something within our control, because you can't really control directly what you're going to see in advertisements and in movies and in the magazines. But you can very easily control what you see on your feed on social media. You just have to choose who to follow. So yeah,
definitely. I think social media can be a great thing or a bad thing depending on the accounts you follow and listening to your body and how it makes you feel, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's so many body positive accounts out there. And there's also something I saw on Instagram which really I found very disturbing, was these adverts for Facetune. Those it's actually filters, but also with video. And they were taking a person who looked really good without it and they look better without it. And then kind of smoothing out the skin and making the hair a different color, making their eyes big. That just looks weird. Making their eyes bigger and then painting their lips. And then all the comments on the bottom were like, this is terrible. This is terrible. And I mean, I think people are just so sick of this. And I think it must be much harder for young people growing up now. I mean, in my time, it was, magazines or something, whereas now everyone's got this kind of pressure on their phones. Do you think the fact that you're a mother of daughters kind of influences your body image content?
Yeah, I think I think a lot about my girls, and especially, a lot of the stuff that I do and I talk about is with them in mind. Of course, I want them to grow up in a world that is kinder to women and is better. So that definitely does drive me. When it comes to the body image thing, well, first of all, my kids are not on social media. They don't have devices, and I probably am scaring them about social media like my parents scared me about drugs.
Well, it's quite similar depending on how you use it, I suppose.
Oh, exactly. Like it has a lot of similarity. It can be really bad for you, and it's addictive, and all those type of things, whatever. But so I'm talking to them quite openly about how I use social media and why I use it, and it's my job, and we talk about it a lot, and what it and with regards to the body image, you talked about filters. It's a real decision for me that I make, and I make it every day, is to just not use those filters.
Yeah, no filter.
Yeah, no filters. And I could be waking up in the morning and have no makeup and still do a story, and obviously sometimes, I mean, it happens literally once in a blue moon, but sometimes I will have a picture that was done by a professional photographer in a studio with great lighting and amazing makeup. And, and maybe it was even airbrushed. I don't know, but I will make a point to say, so that people know this image was a professional image. It really happens very rarely. But I think what it is that if people are at least honest about that and upfront about it, then it potentially would be less damaging. But
so do you think there should be warnings? Do you think there should be warnings?
Yeah, just like there are warnings on cigarette packs, like this harm. So yeah, people should say, there should be a warning, like a disclaimer, why not?
So how can we deal with body shamers? Because sometimes there's too much of that, I guess, online and offline. I remember recently I actually hosted an event by the beach, and there was a woman walking around with not much clothes on, wearing this tiny thong. And this woman in the group I was with was like, "Oh my God, look at the state of her." And I just felt so bad. I just thought, you don't know what someone's story is, or about why. And I think we should be admiring people's confidence rather than trying to body shame them.
I think, it's you really hit it. Like, this is exactly what I think, that how dare she, the look at her, the state of her, really what it is how dare she, there's that kind of how dare she. And by the way, the how dare she, sometimes it comes not just about body, but it could even be about success, daring to dream big, being anything outside of the box that was dictated, like for women. So if you walk slightly outside of that box, you will get the how dare she? Who does she think she is? Here am I, slaving over, eating celery for 30 years. And I will never walk with a thong on the beach because, and there she is, just how dare she? And I'm not crossed, by the way, when it comes from women.
That's really sad, isn't it? We should be supporting each other.
It's frustrating and it's disappointing. And I won't lie, like in the moment, you just want to go, no, I'm on your team. Like, no, but it takes a moment, but I do have a lot of empathy, because I know that when it comes from a woman, it really does come, I think, from a place where we're hurt and we've all been brainwashed. Do you know what I mean? So I will try at least to make an effort to have a dialogue with that, but I also get it from men. And I actually shared And then I'm much less interested in what they have to say, by the way. Like, I really don't care what strange men like think about me, my life, my body. Couldn't give a shit. But I did share a little kind of video that I got this message from this guy. You saw it?
I think I saw you made a collection of messages. I think I saw on a post.
Things. One was like a, but one was this DM from this James guy. I hid his last name, obviously, on his image. That basically said, down line, like, you're disgusting, and how dare you walk around in the internet and promote like you're just lazy and whatever. And he said, like, how dare you, or something like that. And I said, in my post, I actually took it away from James because it wasn't about him. It was more about, actually, I feel like women are pressured to engage in our appearance so that we get distracted and we don't notice what everything else that's going on. Because, if we're constantly consumed by our weight and constantly consumed by what we look like, then are we actually paying attention to other things that are happening in the world, And I did like have that moment, like, God, if I actually counted the number of minutes, hours, and days in my life that have been dedicated to trying to count calories or whatever, that's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of minutes. And I started thinking, well, who's benefiting from that? Who benefits from that I'm engaged in that so much? And I think the more successful women are, the more they are, like, there's a demand on them to look a certain way or to whatever. So I took it as a compliment that James was so outraged by the fact that I, prance around my, my underwear on the internet, and I don't give a fuck. So I took it as a compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found that all these haters, they never have their own picture. Have you found that?
Yeah.
Pressure on women. Something that kind of really impacted me this year was when I saw was it the Super Bowl thing with The Weeknd? I can't remember what it's called. I'm not really up on the media. The Super Bowl concert that they do is it February?
Yes.
It was The Weeknd this year.
Okay.
So it was incredible. It was really, obviously, with the COVID restrictions, this massive show. And he was wearing this red blazer throughout the whole thing, the medley of his best songs. I'm not sure how long it goes on for, maybe 15 minutes. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Then you compare that to last year with J-Lo and Shakira, and it's all about ass. And she looks great, but isn't it, when it's a female performer, it's all about, costume changes and the body, whereas a male performer is not really doing costume changes because it's about the song, isn't it? I just thought it was a massive contrast.
I didn't see it, to be honest. I get where you're coming from. I know what you're saying. I didn't see it. I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to watch it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Because, I mean, if you're the protagonist of your work is the voice, and you don't need to have all these costume changes and flashing your ass and all of that kind of thing. I think as women,
it goes back to, to sexism. And you're right. The focus a lot of times when it comes to women, no matter in what field, it could be athletes, it could be artists, it could be politicians.
Oh,
even.
Of course. Yeah, massively. I mean, remember the Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon, the legs and stuff. I mean,
it's just it's unheard of, or so it's either the looks or their love lives, So like, who was it? Jennifer Aniston, who won.
Everyone feels sorry for her.
About Brad Pitt, touching her arm. You're like, who cares? Who cares if he touched her arm? The woman just won an award for like an achievement, like her achievements. And it's just like it. Yeah, it's sexist. That's sexism. Yeah,
definitely. So, do you have a favorite confession in your book?
I don't have a favorite, to be honest. I love so many of them. It would be very hard and mean of me to just pick one. The favorite, I'll give you a few favorites from the different sections. Okay. So my favorite confession from the bodily fluid, obviously we've already mentioned, was not poop related. It's actually period related. And it's a woman who confessed that she wore a white jumpsuit, which already is a bit like, it's a white jumpsuit to a very, very big event, and then ended up getting her period, having to go to the bathroom and sort of clean herself up, but realizing that actually that meant taking off the jumpsuit and remaining naked in a public toilet. And I guess it wasn't a lot of blood because she thought she could clean it, because, I'm thinking blood on a white jumpsuit, like, forget about it. But I guess it wasn't a lot. So what she did was she went into the toilet, she took off the jumpsuit, and she washed it in the toilet water.
Oh my God. Oh, that sounds awful. Wow.
That's I love that one. Yeah, because you could just picture it, right? She writes it. It's also written really well. Like, it was quite detailed, and the mayor was there, and it's very dramatic. So I love that. We've had lots of sex confessions, obviously. The sex section, obviously, is like the biggest section in the book, as you can probably imagine. There's a lot of people confessing, to masturbating with a lot of very strange items. I think probably the strangest item is a fidget spinner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And actually moving, which is it?
I don't know. And the way praised it was like the best orgasm she ever had. So I'm now very curious.
Oh, wow. I saw one that kind of like impacted me earlier about the butt plug. I mean, I'm actually also a toy designer now, and I'm really trying to make the industry safer, because there's no regulations in this industry at all. And so butt plugs have to have this flared base, and a lot of them don't. There are stories, because you can absorb a toy quite easily. And there's a story that was in the Daily Mail and some other newspapers in the UK about a girl who was with a guy.
The end, though, that it's like it can't. So, like, it's a big, you can't.
Yeah, but some of them have got these little jewels on them, and those ones are not wide enough. And there's a girl who was using one of those. It was metal. And then she's with a boyfriend, and they're like, "Where did you put the butt plug?" And they're like, "Where is it?" Looking all over. And then she lays on her stomach, and it's vibrating. And she had to go to the hospital. It's really great that she shared the story, because this happens way more often.
It come back out? Like, wouldn't it have just come back out?
No, because you can absorb it. That's why they need to have this flared base. It's so important.
Oh, where would it go? End up in your stomach?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. There's like an X-ray with you see the butt plug inside. So I think it's the comments were hilarious, but I think it's fantastic that this girl shared the story with the press, because it's really important to raise awareness about this, because it's so important, and it's not enough talked about with sex toys and safety. I mean, the first time I went to this sex toy fair in Germany, I had an awful reaction to some balls. And it was, do you know what Bartholinitis is?
No.
It's when the Bartholin glands in the vagina swell.
Okay.
They're the glands that make the lubrication. So I had like one of my labia went like this. So 2 days after this fair, I couldn't walk. And I was thinking, this industry that doesn't even take safety into account. It's really quite scandalous. I'm trying to do all I can from the inside to make everything safe.
The fair, are you going to the fair this November?
It's actually been postponed to spring. So hopefully, it was going to be in November, but...
Because I was invited to go this year, actually. I was invited by one of the sex brands that I collaborate with, but we haven't discussed it now in a long time. So maybe that's why they hadn't mentioned it. I'm really intrigued. I'd love to go.
Oh, we'll definitely see you there. It's so much fun. It's really cool, because it's like part of just business to business, so you get to meet everyone in the industry.
It sounds amazing. I'm gonna talk to them about it again, because now that I know you're there, that'll be so much fun.
Yeah, and you get loads of free stuff. And the funny thing is, when you're going through the airport on the way back, I mean the people on the security have seen all these, opening all these suitcases with like loads of dildos and stuff, because everyone's giving out free stuff, so you come out with all these big bags. It's really fun.
I feel like I've got enough now.
Never enough.
There's never enough. I know, it's just not enough time.
Exactly. A couple of quick questions. What is the book that changed your life?
I don't know if I'd say it changed my life, but a book that I think was very significant, and I read it very long ago. Probably need to read it again. And I hope I don't say the title wrong. It's Running with, is it Running with Wolves?
Yeah, I think it's Running with Wolves. I've heard of it. I don't know who wrote it, but a lot of people talk about that book.
because I want to say the name of the author. Let me just find it. I read this in my 20s. Yes, Women Who Run with Wolves. And it is by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I read this in my 20s, and actually I'm going to order this again, and I'm going to read it again, because I remember like being so inspired by this book. Never thought about women in that kind of way. It talks about like your inner wild animal, and just never thought about it that way. I grew up in Israel, and I guess my parents had a very traditional type of relationship. My dad was the provider. My mom was at home. In many ways, I felt like I felt my mom will probably say this about herself as well. But I felt like my mom, that wild woman that I did see, never came out. Like, do you know what I mean? In that relationship. And it felt like that was the role that women were going to play, like the role that we were meant to play. And when I read that book, it blew me away. It really did. I wonder if I'll have the same reaction if I read it now. I'll have to tell you. Yeah.
What about, do you have a phrase or a quote that you live by, or a favorite affirmation?
I don't know. I mean, I love the sort of like fuck it, just fuck it. Okay. And also, I guess I love saying yes, like say yes, figure it out later. I feel like that's a really good approach just in general, because I think that if I think too much, I get too scared of things, and I think of all the things that might go wrong and what I worry about, and then I'll just end up saying no. So I just go, yes, and I'll figure it out later.
It's interesting. There's a film called Yes Man with Jim Carrey. I've not seen it, but it's like that philosophy when you start saying yes to things and how doors and opportunities open up.
It's true. Every time, like, I think I've ordered the book, by the way. Every time you sort of like ponder too much about something, I don't know, it just tends to not happen. And if you go like with that positive energy, yeah, things happen. And also, I think it's a way for me, at least, to cope with fear, because I am afraid of a lot of things. I'm scared of flying, and I'm scared of stuff. If I really sat down and thought about how I'm, going up on stage, I would never go on stage, But the way I say to myself is, why are you worrying about it today? It's not today. You've got like 14 days. So worry about it in 14 days. And then like, that's how and then when the day comes, I'm like, why are you worrying about it now? It's like it's in 20 minutes. Like, there's no point worrying about it now. That's kind of how I do it.
Great. So where can people find you?
So if you're looking for the book is available worldwide, and probably the best place to go is just Amazon, depending on what country you're in. And for me, myself, my platforms, so just Tova Leigh, Tova_Leigh, which is Leigh, on Instagram, and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. And my website is tovaleigh.com, which has all of my information.
Fantastic. Tova, thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been very entertaining.
I love the title of your podcast.
So reaching the climax in all areas of life, because I'm talking to people of all areas, like spirituality, nutrition, and sexuality. And so I'm so sick of this over-sexed kind of approach to sexuality. It's not how I see sexuality. I want to just kind of present it as part of lifestyle. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it.
Yeah. Right, because the way, usually if the press kind of write about it, they make it sound very, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think porn is like the McDonald's of sex, So I want to kind of get away from that and get more into a healthy lifestyle. And also with the censorship, I get sick of all this kind of like tits and ass content you see in this industry, Like,
Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to you. And hopefully I will see you in the spring in Hanover. That'd be so cool.
Cannot wait.
The book I'm reading now is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. This book was first published in 1910, and it's a classic. It's been in print ever since, and the advice in it is timeless. It's still very applicable today. It's a very short book, and in the version I have, it's 59 pages. However, I found I was only reading about 5 pages a day because it really is quite dense. And I think whatever you read, what's very important is how you apply the lessons to your life. Many of the ideas in this book I've read many times in different books, such as Think and Grow Rich and others. But one idea that was very new to me was that of charity. He says not to get involved in charity work, as charity work, for example, concentrates on, let's say, keeping people in a lack mentality. It doesn't really help them to evolve. It keeps them where they are. I thought that was quite an interesting concept. It's not something that I have come across before. As I said, the book is very short and there is some repetition in it. For example, he keeps repeating the same idea at the end of a chapter, and then as the book goes by, then he kind of adds on to this paragraph. And I'm going to read to you the summary of this book if you'd like to close your eyes and listen. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. In order to do this, a person must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. A person must form a clear and definite mental image of the things he wishes to have, to do, or to become, and he must hold this mental image in his thoughts while being deeply grateful to the Supreme that all his desires are granted to him. And that's from The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. I take care of my body. I accept my body exactly how it is. I do my best to stay healthy. I am active and I eat well. My body is a miracle and I love it just as it is. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. I listen to my body. I rest when I need to. I get enough sleep. I accept the natural aging process. My body is a miracle and I love it just as it is. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. I understand that beauty has no age. I accept the wisdom of my wrinkles. I accept my changing body shape. I am grateful for the ability to feel pleasure. My body is a miracle, and I love it just as it is. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. I trust my body. I look after my body as best I can. I am grateful for all the smiles that have lit up my face. I am grateful to my body for all it does for me. My body is a miracle, and I love it just as it is. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. I love the butterflies in my stomach when I'm in love. I adore the warmth of a hug. I am patient with my body. I respect my body's limits. My body is a miracle, and I love it just as it is. I love my body. I am grateful for my body. My body is beautiful just as it is. My body deserves to be loved and appreciated. I am able to maintain a healthy body weight. My body is a miracle, and I love it just as it is. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.